Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at something I think is really cool.
Okay.
It's how fencing can really be a great activity for kids who have ADHD.
Mm.
Finding something that works well for them can be tough. It's got to be engaging, keep them interested,
Yeah.
structured, right, and really address those challenges that are unique to ADHD.
Mm.
And fencing might not be the first thing you think of, but I think when you hear the research,
Yeah.
you're going to be surprised.
Absolutely. And, physical activity in general is great for kids with ADHD, but fencing has some really unique advantages.
Yeah, before we jump into all of that,
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fencing Family. They've got awesome fencing-themed clothes and accessories. I mean, anything you can think of to show off that fencing pride on and off the pist.
Nice.
You can find them over on Etsy at https://fencingfamily.etsy.com.
Love it.
Okay, so back to the deep dive here. When we're thinking about kids with ADHD, often they have a hard time focusing and controlling impulses. So how does fencing help with that?
Well, there's actually been a lot of studies that show that exercise is so beneficial for kids with ADHD. It helps with their attention, it helps with impulse control, and it even helps with cognitive function. And what's so beautiful about fencing is it combines physical activity with a very specific mental workout.
When I think about ADHD, I think about, kids needing to move and have freedom. So how does all the structure of fencing, all the rules and the etiquette and everything, how does that actually help?
You know what a lot of people don't realize is that a lack of structure can actually make anxiety worse and make it even harder for kids with ADHD to focus. And what fencing does is it provides predictability, a routine with its set of rules and techniques, and even etiquette. It's almost like a framework. It's not limiting them, it's just giving them the tools they need
Yeah, it's really cool.
to be successful. And then the way that fencing training is structured also reinforces all of this. You have set practice times,
Right.
warm-up routines, specific drills. All of these help kids learn time management skills, which we know can be a struggle for a lot of kids with ADHD.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the fast-paced nature of the sport. It demands intense focus. You have to make decisions in a split second, and that really keeps them engaged in a way that a lot of other activities can't. It's the best of both worlds. You're getting that physical outlet for all that energy, but you're also constantly being challenged mentally.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
strategizing, you're anticipating your opponent's next move,
Sure.
you're problem solving under pressure.
Right. So we've talked about focus, physical benefits. But what about some of those less obvious benefits like confidence, social skills? Can fencing really impact those areas too?
Oh, absolutely. You'd be surprised. Learning these new skills,
Yeah.
seeing yourself get better and better, and even winning bouts can do wonders for your self-esteem, especially for kids who maybe are struggling in other areas. And the nature of the sport itself, dealing with setbacks, analyzing what went wrong, and trying again, really builds resilience.
Yeah, because in fencing, you're constantly learning from your mistakes. You don't just give up after one loss.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. You have to figure out what went wrong, learn from it, and then try again. And, even though it's not a team sport in the traditional sense, it does give kids this structured environment to interact with their peers.
Okay.
They learn sportsmanship, how to support each other, how to win and lose gracefully.
So even with all these benefits,
Yeah.
it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
You got it.
Right.
Working with coaches who understand ADHD is so crucial because one size does not fit all.
Right.
It's really about adapting the teaching style to the individual child's needs and having really open communication between the parents, the coaches, and the healthcare providers.
That's really interesting. So you're saying it's a real team effort
It is.
to make fencing work for a child.
It takes a village, as they say.
That's when it becomes powerful.
Yes.
Don't forget to check out Fencing Family on Etsy. The link is in the show notes. All right, so we've been talking about how great fencing can be for kids with ADHD, but now I want to hear about specific techniques that coaches can use.
Okay.
What are the things that make a difference?
Well, one of the biggest ones is breaking down complex skills into smaller, more manageable steps. Because trying to learn too much all at once
Right.
can just be overwhelming for anyone, especially for kids with ADHD.
Yeah.
They need those small victories along the way to build their confidence and to stay motivated.
Yeah, those little wins make a big difference.
Exactly. And celebrating those wins
Yes.
is crucial. And then in terms of teaching, using visual aids and demonstrations can be so helpful for these kids.
Oh, that makes sense.
Show, don't just tell.
Yeah.
Especially for visual learners, that can be really powerful.
So it's not just about, the lectures and the drills.
Yeah.
It's about making it engaging
And we can't forget about positive reinforcement. Focusing on what they're doing well, even if it's a small improvement, that can be so motivating.
yeah, because everyone likes to be, told when they're doing something right.
Absolutely. And helps build their self-esteem. And, it makes them want to keep learning. But it's not just what happens on the piece that's important. It's about creating a supportive and inclusive environment in the club as a whole. It's that sense of belonging.
I like that, yeah.
And that might mean having some designated quiet spaces for kids who need a break from all the stimulation, or, setting clear expectations for behavior.
So it's about recognizing that those kids might need something different.
You got it. And, even educating other fencers and parents about ADHD can be helpful in creating a more inclusive and understanding atmosphere.
It's like there's so many layers to this. It's not just the coaching, but it's that whole environment as well.
And one other really important piece is that open communication between parents, coaches, and healthcare providers.
Okay, yeah.
So, sharing information about the child's strengths, the things they might struggle with, any medications they might be taking, and other relevant factors.
So it's really working together as a team
Exact.
to make sure everyone's on the same page.
And, being flexible and willing to adjust the approach as needed.
Right, because what works for one child might not work for another.
Exactly. There's no magic formula.
It's really about figuring out what works.
It's about listening, observing, and adjusting to create a truly supportive and successful experience for that child.
This is so insightful. I'm learning so much about how much thought and care goes into making fencing accessible to kids with ADHD.
It is a very specialized approach, but the rewards can be huge.
Let's talk about those different fencing weapons.
Okay.
We've got the foil, we've got the epi, we've got the saber.
Yes.
I've always been curious about how those appeal to different types of learners, especially thinking about kids with ADHD.
Right, yeah. Each of the weapons offers its own unique challenges and rewards.
So let's start with the foil. What makes that one special?
The foil is all about precision and strategy. It's considered kind of the most classical weapon.
Okay.
With a real focus on technique and form.
So like very structured?
Yes, exactly. There's a specific vocabulary of movements.
Oh, wow.
And then a clear set of rules that govern the engagement. It's often called right-of-way.
So for a child who loves structure and clear rules, that might be a good fit.
Absolutely. It's almost like a physical game of chess.
Oh, I like that.
You have to analyze your opponent, figure out their weaknesses, and then plan your attack strategically.
Okay, so foil is for the strategists. What about the epi?
So the EP is interesting because the entire body is a target.
Oh.
And there's no right-of-way like there is in foil fencing.
Okay.
So it's a little more intuitive and free-flowing.
It's interesting.
But it still requires a lot of patience and observation.
So it's less about outsmarting your opponent with like specific moves.
Yeah.
It's more about kind of like waiting for that right moment to strike.
You could say that. Yeah, it's about anticipating your opponent's actions and reacting really quickly when an opportunity arises.
Which could be good for kids who are struggling with impulsivity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really cool connection. Okay, so we've got strategy with the foil.
Yep.
Patience with the epi. What about the saber? That always seems to be the most energetic and fast-paced.
The saber is all about speed and aggression. It's definitely the fastest of the three weapons.
Ow.
And it involves a lot of slashing and cutting motions. I bet that appeals to kids who need to move and have a lot of energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It requires incredible reflexes and hand-eye coordination, and you have to think really quickly on your feet.
So it sounds like each weapon has its own personality and appeals to a different learning style or even just temperament.
Exactly. That's why it's so great that fencing offers this variety.
Yeah.
It's about finding the right tool for each child.
And their needs.
Exactly.
That's what I love about fencing. There's something for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, no matter which weapon you choose, you've got to have the right gear. So a big shout out to Fencing Family, our sponsor for this episode. They make awesome apparel and accessories so you can show off that fencing pride wherever you go.
Very cool.
Make sure you check them out on Etsy at https://fencingfamily.etsy.com.
Love their stuff. It's the perfect blend of comfort and style for fencers of all ages. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into fencing and ADHD. I hope this has given everyone a better understanding of this amazing sport and how it can benefit kids who learn and move differently. And if you're thinking about giving it a try, remember to find a coach who understands ADHD and can help your child discover the joy of fencing. Until next time, keep those blades sharp.